What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy TreJuanJohnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just please make sure you keep those comments respectful. So, as you guys remember, a few weeks ago, kind of told you guys we're going to take a little break and we are going to get kind of back into it once the NBA Finals really got going. And we're here now. The the mecca of professional basketball right now is occurring with Oklahoma City and Indy uh, vying for a championship, and we'll see who comes out on top. But it's been a little bit of time, and I just kind of want to dive into a few things that we may have missed, or when I say we have missed, the world went on, but we didn't necessarily talk about it on this podcast. So I got to start it where it is, right? The NBA Finals. As you can see, I was hoping when we got to this episode that I would be somewhere in New York. I could have been, we would have had Stephen A on the pod. We'd have been talking about, getting ready for game 3 in Madison Square Garden and how the Knicks, probably have tied the series 1-1 with a chance to go up 3-1. In their games in New York, we could have been, having that conversation. Could have been asking Stephen A why he always messing with LeBron and Bronny and all that stuff. Just getting some good vibes, right? That was the hope. That was the pipe dream. It actually almost was very realistic. You know, the Knicks got down. Um, you know, they lost their first two games at home, ended up winning game 3 on the road in Indianapolis. Then the Pacers won game 4. Uh, Knicks win game 5. And they were okay in game 6 for a little bit, but then, the Pacers just started taking it to them and it was too late. But, had they been able to force a game 7, we here at the No Disrespect But podcast, right, would have been praying that the Knicks got it done and would have had an opportunity to host an NBA Finals game where, again, y'all know what I've been saying the past couple years, and I've gotten closer and closer, right? Last year, I had them going to the Eastern Conference Finals. They missed it in the semis. This year, I had them going to the finals. They got to the conference finals. Um, and they did fire head coach Tom Thibodeau, and they're going to be looking for a new coach, which that was something I wasn't surprised about. I felt like they kind of needed to go in a direction. You don't let um, the short-term result hinder what you saw over a long period of time. And I think Tibbs did a good job of getting the Knicks in the right direction, but I don't think he was the guy to lead him to the championship. But Rick Carlisle is definitely a coach that can lead you to a championship. Obviously, he did it with the Dallas Mavericks, and he is now doing it with the Indiana Pacers. And we know what Coach Dagnall is doing over in OKC and how he was able to turn that franchise around from obviously going full rebuild after the Russell Westbrook era and trading him to Houston. So to see that team, that organization, that city back in the NBA Finals, we know how just awesome that fan base is and how electric that arena is when the Oklahoma City Thunder are playing championship basketball. Trust me, as a Spurs fan, we've been victim to that crowd plenty of times. And so to see them back on this stage is really good. Two small market teams, so to speak, Oklahoma City and Indianapolis. And so, I think this is a good vibe, right? To have two franchises um, that aren't in the big city, but we can rally around just this product because of the game of basketball. And both of these teams play the game of basketball at an extremely high level. And like I said, we're here now. And I know you're kind of saying, hey, Trey, like we're 2 games in. You're just now talking about it. Well, you know the old saying, a series doesn't really start until we have a road team win a game. And fortunately for us, the Pacers were able to win in an electric fashion on a buzzer beater by Tyrese Halliburton. And they won game 1. And then game 2, Oklahoma City does what they always do following a loss, especially a loss at home. They put belt to ass, and they did that. I know that the score ended up being like a 13 or 15-point victory in favor of the Thunder, but that game just didn't seem really close at all outside maybe the first 10 minutes of the game. and then Oklahoma City just ran away with it, showing why they're the number one team in the NBA, number one overall seed, and the favorite to win the championship at this point in time. Now, going into this series, right? Of course, I had the Knicks winning the East and winning against Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals. And so when they didn't make it, in my mind, I said, well, I still had in my mind that an Eastern Conference champion was going to win this year's championship again, which would be the second year in a row, right? With Boston winning last year. So I'm going to kind of stick with the East here, and I still believe that the Pacers will win this series. I have the Pacers in six. My wife wants to make sure that I mention that she also picked the Pacers in six. So we're kind of a household united now. We kind of been, at odds the whole playoff run because I had the Knicks. My wife initially had the Celtics win the championship, and we know how that went with Jason Tatum missing the series, missing the rest of the series with an Achilles tear. Jalen Brown apparently playing with a torn meniscus, but even though I just think that's just an excuse when you lose. But Boston had that series and they just could never capitalize. But yeah, we were kind of divided, a lot of times. Like I had OKC winning, I think she had Denver winning. So it was kind of crazy. But now we're in one mind that we believe the Indiana Pacers are going to win this series. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But when I kind of think about the keys to victory, and I want to kind of do that for both teams because look, OKC is still the best team record wise and probably roster wise in the league. They got to this point, and so you want to give them their respect and be able to point to ways that they can capitalize that go beyond just being the better team or having the best player in this series, which I think on paper, and honestly, what we've seen on the court throughout this season and this postseason, it has rung true more times than it has not. Um, so I'll actually start with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, in terms of keys to their victory, right? Um, I think one of the things they have to continue to do, and this falls on Shea's shoulders first and foremost, is you got to kind of have to get the guys involved. I felt like Shea in game one and probably a lot of games this season he's almost emptying the clip because he knows, right, that he has to score a ton. He has to be aggressive scoring the ball to really give OKC the best chance to win. But I think there are spots throughout his aggression that he can choose to kind of get his teammates involved. And they didn't do so much that well in game one. I think he only had 3 assists, even though he had 38 points or something like that. But you saw that the others, as Shaq always likes to say, they weren't necessarily getting involved in the groove. And yes, you're going to get yours. You're going to get your points because you're one of the best pure scorers in this league. But if you're not finding ways to get other guys in the action and getting their confidence up, letting them see the ball go through the rim, it's going to be hard. And we saw even still in game one, they had every opportunity to win. They were up 15 with, I think, 9 minutes left or something like that. So they still had every opportunity to win. And a lot of that was because of SGA's aggression and getting some good buckets and getting to the free throw line and things like that, even though I think he only had maybe 5 free throws that whole game. But game two, you saw a lot more action, a lot more getting guys involved, being a willing passer, but also understanding that, hey, I can pick my spots and still get my shot off. And so I think he had another like 36 points or something like that, but he also had 8 assists, and so that changes the game. When you're also giving it, doing it as a scorer, and you can get some of your guys involved with 8 assists, that's huge for them, and huge for that team. And you saw guys like Andrew Wiggins go off. I think he had 17 points in like 15 minutes. You saw Alex Caruso score over 20. You saw Chet really start to kind of get his game rolling a little bit, which kind of leads me to my next key to victory for OKC. Chet has to continue to be aggressive. Look for his shot. We know he's going to bring on the defensive side of the ball and protecting the rim. But the more he can attack Miles Turner, force him to play on both ends. Chet is a guy coming into this league. He had it all. He had the post game. He had the mid range. He had the 3-point ball. He had the ability to handle the ball and run an offense as a point center. Obviously, we know what he does as a defender. He needs to utilize that whole skill set. That doesn't mean forcing shots and things like that, but I thought he did a really good job, especially early in game two, getting himself going, tagging the basket, getting defenders on their heels a little bit with his ability to handle the ball. I really like that. And I believe you have to see more of that consistently because to me, he's the player that can just wreck everything for Indiana. Obviously, what he does protecting the rim helps, but if he can be aggressive and especially aggressive in terms of getting Miles Turner into some early foul trouble, Indiana doesn't have. They have depth when you go to a Thomas Bryant, when you go to an Avery Bradley, sure, from a size perspective, but they don't have the quality depth as far as the bigs are concerned that I think OKC has when you have a Chet, when you have a Isaiah Hartenstein, even when you bring a J Dub or J, I think it's J Will. Sorry, when you bring J Will, who's undersized, but he's still a big that can stretch the floor, can defend fours and fives in this league. I just think they have a little bit more at their disposal, and so they can maybe. Um, Try to, get attack Miles Turner a little bit, get him in foul trouble early. I think that'll be so beneficial um, to what they do. And then, of course, keep pounding on defense. OKC, whether you love it or not, they have been aggressive. They've been allowed to be aggressive, and they take advantage of that. And it's a beauty to watch in most instances, and how they can just take over a game, but how they get their hands in passing lanes, they get out on the break, and they are able to still set their defense up. Which the last point I will say is continue to have a set defense. We know what Indiana can do in the fat in the fast break in terms of pushing the ball even after makes. We know what they can do, and OKC has done a really good job of forcing Indiana to play in the half court against their set defense. So they have to continue that. So I would say selective aggression and getting teammates involved for SGA. Chet being more aggressive, continue to be more aggressive offensively, and then OKC continuing to be a force defensively in terms of generating turnovers and forcing Indiana to play against a set defense. Now, as far as Indiana goes, I think first starters, like we talked about, SGA having that selective aggression where, hey, you're going to get your points because they just can't stop you. Like they can make it a little bit difficult, but they just can't stop you from getting your shot right. Tyrese Halliburton has to be better. Like he has to almost, I don't want to say force the issue, but in a way, yes, force the issue. Um, be aggressive. Look for your shot. I think right now, even on his drives, especially early in games, he's still looking for his teammates. And that corner three, which I believe is a key to victory. OKC gives up the most corner threes. Indiana makes the most corner threes. You saw in game two, OKC stayed home a little bit more on those threes so they could at least be there on the contest. And so when you know that guys are staying home on the perimeter, I think you have to be a little more aggressive if you're Halliburton when you're attacking the rim. I'd like to see them use him off ball a little bit more so he can kind of use his speed, have the defense already off balance, and then going downhill. And hey, if a Chet or a Hardenstein comes over and contests that layup, guess what? That opens up because the other guys, right, they're tied to their man, right? So that opens up Miles Turner having an advantage on a guard or somebody smaller than him to get an offensive rebound, get the ball back up. So Hallie's going to have to start being a little more aggressive, look for his offense a little bit earlier, and in ways incorporate his teammates in it as well. Because the last game, he wasn't really able to do anything. He wasn't really able to get his shot until the fourth quarter and really wasn't able to get his teammates involved because Oklahoma City was playing home on a lot, excuse me, of the Indiana Pacer perimeter players, which I think further intensifies the need for Halliburton to look for his shot a little bit more and allow for some mismatches in terms of generating some second opportunities with a Miles Turner rebound and things like that. So need Hallie to be aggressive. Um, their bench needs to be consistent. And when I say bench, we know we talking about Obi Toppin, we're talking about T.J. McConnell, but Benedict Mathurin, he needs to take it up maybe a notch. Like he's a guy that's so skilled offensively, still has some ways to grow defensively, and sometimes the mental side of it of taking care of the ball. But I think there's a level of aggression that we need to see him kind of come out and do. I think and almost make the game easy for him, right? Like I think right now when he's in the game, they're saying, "Hey, we want you to score, but we also want you to defend." And we also want you to make plays for everybody and like doing the pick and roll and everything like that. I would almost like to just them to say, hey, you're our microwave. You're our J.R. Smith, you're our Jamal Crawford. Your job is to come in here, put pressure on the defense, score the ball. Get to the free throw line. He's really good at getting to the free throw line. Um, Attack on offense, get in the paint, get 2 feet in the paint, and hey, make the right pass now. But the objective is we want you to be aggressive in the mindset of, hey, I'm going to score. The guy you have in front of me can't stop me. And because you have TJ McConnell out there to help distribute, right? And help get other guys involved when he's out there. He's your floor general, especially when Tyrese Halliburton is off the court. And we've seen instances where Tyrese and TJ have been playing together, right? And TJ's taking on the lead guard and playing Hallie a little bit more off ball. So I want to see Benedict Mathurin have one of those games. We saw Alex Caruso and Andrew Wiggins just have it in game 2. It's time for we saw Obi Toppin, right? Have it in game 1. I think it's time for Benedict Mathurin to really take that leap now. He's a part of that core group of guys and core group of young guys. They really missed him last season. He probably could have gave him a better puncher's chance against Boston in the conference finals last year. We saw how much he's meant to them in this run. He's going to have to step up. And especially because a lot of his minutes, right, are going to be staggered versus some OKC starters. And so they're really going to be leaning on you to really bring that intensity and that production. And so I really want to see um, Benedict Mathurin take that next step. Um, and then I would say the next thing is you I would say early offense maybe is a good thing. And you see everything I've talked about is their offense because here's the thing. I don't think their defense is bad. I think they still try to make life difficult for Chet, I mean for SGA. I think they do as best as they can against Chet and J Dub. Um, you know, trying to neutralize OKC's bench as best as they can. I think their defense is their defense. They're going to try and make things tough, but sometimes better offensive talent is the better offensive talent. But you're going to have to outscore Oklahoma City. And you're going to have to be smart with the basketball. Like, you've got to take care of the basketball. They've been so careless these first couple games. You got to take care of the basketball. You got to be able to initiate your offense quickly. You know, your fast break minutes, push the ball, push that tempo, and don't get so caught in the ISO ball and always trying to slow the game down. So I do think Oklahoma City is going to be able to do that. I think that's starting tomorrow night. I think they're going to take a 2-1 lead and going into game 4. So let's kind of move on. Here's some other things that we missed, right? Saints quarterback battle is really starting to heat up, according to people. Obviously, that's led by Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. Spencer Rattler, obviously going into year 2, was a 5th-round pick last year in a different regime. You got Tyler Shuck, who was the coach's choice this year. Again, you guys know how I feel about that. I think when you have Shedeur Sanders and Jalen Milroe on the board, that would probably been the better choices. But Tyler Shuck has been the guy, right? In terms of that's who you invested a highest draft pick in. And so good reports from both quarterbacks, right, about how they're looking. You're seeing a few clips here and there, just the arm talent they both have, especially Tyler Shuck and just the cannon that he has that he got lauded for, right, in the pre-draft process. So that's really good to see those things happening. And, it's good that it's 2 young quarterbacks. I mean, can you really lose, right? I mean, if one of these 2 kids are great, then awesome. You probably got your franchise quarterback. If they aren't, it's like, Spencer was a fifth round draft pick. Tyler Shuck, everybody and their mama knows that was a reach. So we can move on, right? Like it's just refreshing though to just be like, look, let him out, let him go crazy. Jake Hayner was a part of this competition, but he ended up with an injury. Apparently he was out at OT or mandatory OTA, so I don't know if he's healthy or what that looks like because the clips I saw was him handing the ball off. So maybe he was just getting the mental reps in that regard, but I hadn't seen him throwing the ball. So a lot of the throwing the ball drills I've seen Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler do, and I've seen some really good plays from both of them. I've seen some questionable plays from both of them, and so for me, I'm not going to buy in too much to what's happening in practices or reports about what's happening in practices, or even the videos that I'm going to see in practices, right? Because I think when you have an offensive head coach, the offense is going to win a lot today. I think when you have a defensive head coach like we had the past 4 years, I think our defense won a lot of the days in camp, right? So um, I want to see when the games are played. But this is something that I was kind of thinking about, and I've come to a theory, and it's based off of some things that I've seen around the league um, over the years. Is for me, sometimes I feel like the resources that are gathered, right, from an offensive standpoint, I will say when it comes to the quarterback, the resources that are gathered, in my mind, dictates or almost gives a sneak peek into what the idea is at the quarterback position of who you might go with. And so when I look at the Saints wide receiver room, like our top three guys are the same variant. It's like the Spider-Man picture where they're pointing at each other. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks. Rashid Shaheed and Brandon Cooks probably being more like one another, being deep threats and things like that than Chris Olave, who I think can truly run the whole route tree. Brandon Cooks still can as well, but you know, Chris is going to be your lead guy. But they're all smaller guys. Even though we were really needy, right, for a big body receiver that can kind of make life easy for some of your quarterbacks. You know, everything doesn't have to be perfect on the money. I can maybe throw some of those maybe questionable throws across the middle from time to time that we know quarterbacks can do. And I know a guy that doesn't mind and can go and get that, but also can take the abuse that he's going to get regardless. We knew we needed that right in the wide receiver room, but we never got it. Like we didn't get it in the draft, but we didn't get it in the free agency. We didn't get it in the draft. We didn't get it in undrafted free agency. So we're pretty much rolling out Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, Rashid Shaheed, Bub Means, Dante Pettis. Um, I mean, shit, the list is going on. But in my mind, all I see is Chris Olave, an aging Brandon Cooks, who you just want to see if he can get back to a little bit of his form. Rashid Shaheed is coming off from injury. And then the rest are a bunch of guys who got their chain snatched by Marcus Valdez-Scantling, who was on the street last year. We signed him. He immediately became our best receiver. And when we're talking about our top three receivers, right, are all coming off of injury-riddled seasons. What happens? What happens when, as a Saints fan, we know the inevitable happens? Somebody here gets injured. It doesn't have to be a extremely serious injury like the concussions or the groin and the hip and all that type of stuff that Shaheed was dealing with, or the knee that Brandon Cooks is dealing with. It may just be like, oh, like they tweaked the ankle on the play, so we might want to sit him out a week or two, or took a little hard hit to the shoulder, right? Maybe might miss 2 or 3 games. Just little small things like that, right? Not I don't want to talk about like the big injury. I think God forbid we have a big injury. We're really screwed, right? Um, but we're really a Chris Olave injury away, knock on wood, for this being a total disaster of a wide receiver room. And I find that hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that you would throw Tyler Shuck early into that situation, into the wide receiver room as it's currently constructed, and that we haven't really gone out to go really get somebody. Like, yeah, we brought Gabe Davis in, but again, that's a project. That's somebody who really his only best success was with Josh Allen, who's a top 5 player in the league, right? Signed a big contract with Jacksonville. It didn't pan out. So when you have an Amari Cooper out there who's a proven vet, when you have a Keenan Allen, who's a proven vet that came off a really good season last year with Chicago, playing with a young quarterback, right? Who also had one of his better seasons, especially after going through some injuries and stuff with a Kellen Moore. That none of those guys get brought in. Now, granted, it's mandatory camp. Maybe those are older guys. It's like, look, man, we done been through that grind already. We know what it is. Call us when training camp towards the late end of the summer, early fall starts up. We'll get there. So there's still time to disprove my theory. But as it currently stands and how we're attacking the wide receiver room, I don't believe that they want to throw Tyler Shuck in there. I believe it signals that Spencer Rattler will be the starting quarterback. And I don't believe that means that they believe that Spencer Rattler is the better option than Tyler Shuck right now, or the better talent than Tyler Shuck right now. When you draft a guy that high in the second round, I do think you want to see him as early as you possibly can. But if we go back to the Tennessee Titans at one point in time, they had this same kind of issue where it was like, we draft Will Levis. Yeah, we definitely want to see him. We also drafted Malik Willis the year before. He has a little bit of experience. Let's try to throw him out there because Ryan's hurt. And they did that. And then they kind of gave Malik his little chance. Didn't work out. Went to Will Levis. He showed promise. He didn't have the best year, right? It wasn't all world. He showed promise. And then what did they do? They invested heavily in offense. They went and got Calvin Ridley and signed him to a big deal, right? They went and signed Tony Pollard from Dallas. They drafted a good young running back out of Tulane. So they drafted an offensive lineman, right, to protect Will Levis because he had gotten sacked a lot of times his rookie year. So they put that investment in him, right? They let him go out in year two. He didn't look good at all. He didn't look good at all. Ended up getting benched at certain points for Mason Rudolph. And what ended up happening? Tennessee gets the first overall pick. They go get a quarterback. And I believe that the New Orleans Saints may be on that same trajectory. You go with the second year guy who at least has a level of experience in the NFL. We know the wide receiver room sucks. It's not a whole lot of talent there. You throw Spencer out there, you almost have the expectation that he is going to fail because he too is young. Because as much as we talked about the lack of weapons, right, that Tennessee had, Will Levis's rookie year, Ryan Tannehill made do with it because he was a veteran quarterback, right? Like he made do with it because you expect a 10 plus year veteran to make that work. But when it comes to the young guys, it's like, oh well, we don't want to put Will out there right away because if we put Will out there right away and he looks bad, then they're going to be calling for Malik. Whereas you put Malik out there, there's a high possibility that Malik's going to look bad because he's still young, he's still improving as a passer, and we just don't have the offensive talent to help him outside of Derrick Henry at this point. Then we can call for Will. Will comes in, and he just needs to look okay. And Will Levis did his job by looking okay. And then they put the investment in, and then they realized quickly last year that hey, we try to put the investment in this guy, it didn't work out. We're moving on. We got number one overall pick. We got our new quarterback. And I think you could see the same thing, right? I think Spencer gets in. I think Spencer may get the nod to be the starting quarterback. I believe there's going to be growing pains. Like, have you seen the Saints' first 5 or 6 weeks? It's horrible. They say we have one of the easiest schedules in the league, but I ain't seen it yet. Saints could theoretically be 1-5, 0-6, whatever. Then you say, okay, we're going to throw Tyler Shuck in. Let's just say, for sake of discussion, the Saints were 1-5 in their first 6 games. So what is that? 11 games left in the season. And let's say Tyler Shuck goes 4-7. So that will what make you 5-12 again. So you kind of had a washed year, but you were younger this year, so it's kind of okay to say you won 5 games with a much younger team, much younger quarterback position, not a crazy amount of talent on at the wide in the wide receiver room. Your best talent on offense really is an aging running back in Alvin Kamara, who is yet to finish a season in his career, or I think since his rookie year, right? So Okay, like you were 4-7. You had some good flashes. Let's say yes, in those 11 games, yes, a little bit under 3,000 yards. Let's say 12 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, whatever it might be. Okay, we can at least buy an offseason where okay, now we saw some flashes. We're gonna get some weaponry here, and then we're gonna give you year two. Well, you're the guy. We're gonna ramp up, and then we're gonna see, okay, can you be the quarterback that can be this person? And if not, hell, we'll lose and we'll go get Arch Manning in 2027. So you kind of see how it could make sense. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. Um, or let's say Tyler Shuck gets in, and in the 11 games we give him, he's 2-9. He sucks. Now we have 3 wins. Now, hell, you talking about a Cade Klubnik, a Drew Aller, a Gus, no Gus, well, why am I calling him Gus? The Nuts Bus, Garrett Nussmeyer. I'm gonna call him Gus. Anyways, who can be the quarterback for his dad, who's the offensive coordinator. Everybody's talking about that story, right? Um, hell, Lenore Sellers could be coming out at that point in time. Hey, who knows what my boy can do at Miami and revamp his career, right? Um, and he comes in and he's a experienced quarterback, right? And you might say, hey, I want him. Hell, who knows what Ty Simpson may do at Alabama? Who knows what my guy at Arizona State may do? Who knows what my guy at BYU may do? Like the quarterback position is wide open. But all I have to say is you got 3 wins. You're probably gonna be picking somewhere in the top 5. You can go get your new franchise quarterback if Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck have not shown you anything this season. And I kind of think that's where the Saints are going because even though they spent the second round pick on Tyler Shuck, and we know that's an extremely high value pick, I think it's different when it comes to the quarterback position. Like if you spend the second round pick on a wide receiver or a lineman or like an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, I think you're going to try to still give that position maybe a little bit more grace. But I think at quarterback, especially if you find yourself in the top 5, you're gonna be like, all right, like it's a second round pick, like I'm good. Like I can get rid of this kid. I can go start with somebody new. And I think the Saints are positioning themselves for that. And I believe, in my opinion, how the wide receiver room is currently constructed is giving a little bit of insight of how they may lean. Of course, the games still have to be played. Of course, I still believe that ideally Tyler Shuck would be the starting quarterback because of his draft position value and the position he plays. But at this point in time, yours truly believes that Spencer Rattler will be the starting quarterback versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, what else have we missed? Spurs are in the KD sweepstakes. That's kind of what I've been hearing. Wimby's kind of being a Shaolin monk now, and maybe his enlightenment is starting to, um, you know, shed onto the San Antonio Spurs to get their act together. Pop is retired. He's El Jefe now, focusing solely on director of basketball, president of basketball operations, and we're trying to get guys. Obviously, Giannis was a big part of the discussion, maybe going after him, but it seems like Giannis has publicly said he plans on winning another championship in Milwaukee. He has not asked for a trade. He has no intentions of being traded. Milwaukee has no intentions of trading him at this point in time. They're not even entertaining calls. So that dream is dead. But the KD dream is still alive. But here's the thing. What will it take? I'm hearing people say it's going to have to take Stephon Castle or it's going to have to take De'Aaron Fox. I don't think so. KD's in the last year of his deal. So, like, I don't need to give you my reigning rookie of the year. I don't need to give you the prize trade acquisition I got last year, who I'm probably still going to sign to maybe a 3 or 4 year contract extension to be a part of my core. So Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, pick number 14. That seems reasonable. You're getting a score. A guy that can stretch the floor next to Devin Booker. You're getting a veteran guy who's a 3-and-D guy in Harrison Barnes. You're getting a lottery pick, which you do not have a first round pick, if I'm not mistaken. The Phoenix Suns do not. So We're giving you a first round pick. Probably will include additional draft capital that they can use to build their team, whether that's around Devin Booker or should he decide he wants to move on. You're adding more picks to your treasure chest to be able to have a really good rebuild. Those are all things that we're looking at, but I do not think that Stephon Castle or Jeremy Sohan or the number 2 overall pick, excuse me, will be a part of this. But people are saying that KD feels like him to San Antonio is a done deal, and we would love that, right? I mean, obviously he's an idol of Wimby's. Um, and I think he can kind of teach Wimby just how to win, how to be continue to be a good professional, how to take every game and every day in preparation seriously. I think this automatically puts San Antonio in the top 3 to 4 top teams in the Western Conference, vying for a championship and a chance at the NBA Finals. Obviously De'Aaron Fox, I think that helps his game tremendously because now you're bringing another perimeter threat, another lethal scorer that can maybe even maximize what he can bring, and continue to be a guy that can go downhill and attack defense. It's going to help Stephon Castle as he continues to grow. Dylan Harper potentially joining this team would be really beneficial for him. I think this helps Jeremy Sohan. I think this helps our length a little bit on defense as well. KD is a very underrated defender, even at his age. At the end of the day, he's still almost 7 feet tall, has that wingspan, has that length, and can bother offensive players. And at the end of the day, you got this 7'5" alien behind you, and we know what he can do for Wimby, man. Like, and it's going to free up just so much. Like, I still don't think Wimby's going to be getting single coverage and things like that now, but he can take his domination really to another level. And there's going to be so much floor spacing around Wimby now, which is what us Spurs fans have been just crying about, really, because we need to continue to add more spacing around Wimby so he can truly get to his spots and he starts to grow his offense, free throw line down. And we know what he can do, kind of stretching the floor. So, um, man, really looking forward to this. Um, I hope we can make this trade happen, and I hope we don't lose a ton in terms of assets and things like that, especially from a player standpoint. Again, I would love to keep Stephon Castle, love to keep De'Aaron Fox, would love to keep Jeremy Sohan because of what he brings from a defensive standpoint. But this kind of helps. I think in the short term, I think it puts us in that championship window. But then we still have some young core pieces for when um, KD ultimately retires in a couple years. We still have some young guys that have now been elevated maybe by some championship level basketball, and we can kind of get some things going. But we'll see, man. It's all rumors right now. Some people are saying they believe the deal is done, and we'll find out in a few weeks, right before the draft. But just know the moment it happens, or should it happen, I'm episode. I might not even do no disrespect, but podcast. Might do my boy Tay Visuals doing a Bayou Ballers podcast, and we're gonna get that thing up live quickly. Like that's just kind of how it's gonna have to be. So, please don't be surprised uh, if that happens. Now, I don't want to close the show. It's more of a request for help in a sports instance because, bruh, the boxing world right now has me lost. I am so far removed from what's happening in the world of boxing. It's not even funny. Like once Floyd really retired, and really stopped, I think his last exhibition, versus shoot, Conor McGregor was probably the last time I really paid attention to boxing. But then it started having all these celebrity guys coming in, like the Paul brothers and all that. And I kind of just got turned off from it. So I really stopped paying attention. And I think by doing that, I missed out on a lot of really great storylines in the boxing world. And so I'm trying to play catch up. So if there's anybody out there that really like is in tune with that and like wants to talk about like nose boxing kind of in and out, like let me know. And I'll make sure I put that when I post this video, just kind of say, hey man, anybody with boxing knowledge, like come talk to me because I need to be educated on that. Like I know the Canelo and Bud Crawford fight is coming up in September, September 13th. That's 3 days from my birthday, so probably gonna do something big. Already talking about trying to have my guys out here, so might do something around that. But I know the names. Like I've watched Canelo fights, but I haven't watched him in a while. I did watch Bud's last fight, so he is one of the boxers I do keep up with. But like I'm just so far removed. Like I don't know the storyline behind this fight, how we finally got to this point. What's the boxing world saying about this matchup? What should we expect? Like is it truly two guys still in their prime fighting, or is it more of like name alone? So kind of like when Floyd and Manny Pacquiao finally fought, it was more about name than both of them really being kind of at that level. They were still really highly accomplished and effective fighters, but it just wasn't the same. We knew that fight probably came 5 years too late or later than we wanted it. So is this what that Crawford and Canelo fight is? Is it more of like, nah, man, you get some prime for prime. This is Ali Frazier type stuff. Like, okay, like educate me on that. Give me some knowledge. Tell me about some of these up and coming boxers on both the men's and women's side. Cause like, bruh, I am so lost, so lost. So that's how we want to close. A plea for help. Help me out with this boxing stuff, y'all. Anyways, in the show, how we always end. If there's anything I said that disrespected anyone, that's a good thing, right? It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.